In today's brief video, I want to provide you guys with 4 mistakes that I wish I would have avoided when quitting nicotine products. Today's video can apply to cigarettes, vaping products, chewing tobacco, and even nicotine pouches. Any type of nicotine, this advice is going to apply. If you wind up enjoying the content in today's video, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description to learn more about our free and paid addiction recovery coaching program resources, as well as our new Crave-Less nicotine-free gum supplement. Mistake number 1 that I would avoid is not being aware of some of the expected timelines when it comes to quitting. And this advice is going to be contradictory to point number 3 that I'm going to make later on in the video. When you first quit nicotine, it's going to be somewhere around days 3 to 5 that nicotine fully exits your body. And this is typically where people run into peak withdrawal symptoms. A lot of times we'll recommend quitting on, like, let's say a Wednesday morning or a Wednesday night. If you don't have work Saturday and Sunday throughout the course of the weekend, you can take that time to be home or go to the sauna, go to the gym, go for a swim, or just lounge around on your couch while your body's going through that peak detox moment. Now, the other time frame that throws a lot of people off is at the 2-week hump. It's somewhere between days 14 to 20 where your body starts to detox the byproducts of nicotine, which is cotinine. And as this byproduct of nicotine detoxes, a lot of people wind up going through a second wave of withdrawal symptoms. And this threw me off time and time again because I would quit. I would get through the first 3 to 5 days, I would feel pretty good, and then suddenly I feel like I went completely backwards around days 14 to 20. This is super normal, and it usually passes within 3 to 7 days after hitting that 2-week hump. But I want you to be aware of this and avoid this mistake, because those time frames, days 3 to 5 and days 14 to 20, are very common points of relapse because people don't know what to expect when they're quitting. Mistake number 2 I would recommend avoiding is drinking alcohol or trading nicotine out for another substance. This could be pills, this could be cannabis, this could be excessive amounts of food or sugar. And the reason why I say this is because the point in quitting is to feel good. So the last thing you want to do is quit vaping, eat a bunch of sugar, drink a bunch of alcohol, or smoke a ton of weed, and then wind up feeling bad from doing those things. Now, what happens in this case is the person quits vaping, they wind up doing those other activities, trading one addiction for another. They still feel bad, and they eventually say, well, wait a minute, I've quit for like 10, 20, 30 days, and I don't feel any better. Some people start drinking more alcohol, and they actually feel worse. And then they say, there was no point in quitting. I might as well go back to using nicotine products. This didn't make a difference for me. So be very careful that you're not trading one addiction for another. And look, this could include things like adult media content consumption. This could include sports betting or gambling. Keep a very close eye on your other behaviors when you quit. I will say a little caveat about alcohol. For me personally, when I made the decision to finally put nicotine down for good, I had to cut out alcohol for minimally 30, 60 something days because every time I drank, I would always find myself going to buy nicotine again. Mistake number 3 that I would recommend avoiding is falling for timelines. Now, I provided you guys with some days 3 to 5 and days 14 through 20, but a lot of people are going to watch videos like mine or read online expected timelines of nicotine withdrawal symptoms. And although it's good to have a generalized idea, you don't want that to be set in stone, because what happens is if your timeline, if your journey doesn't wind up looking exactly like mine did or exactly like that person's timeline on Reddit did, you're going to be going through this and you're going to say, gosh, I don't know why I don't feel better yet, or why am I still feeling some of these withdrawal symptoms? And then that addicted voice in your brain is going to manipulate you into thinking that you're unique, that no matter what you do, you're never going to get better because your quitting journey doesn't match that of the general public. And this often winds up leading to a relapse episode. So although I encourage people to get educated on proper expectations throughout their quitting process, I say don't be too rigid on the timelines, because the reality is for the first 90 days, it is what it is. It takes about 90 days for those nicotine receptors in your brain to return back down to normal levels. And that's without using any nicotine, right? No nicotine gum, no nicotine patches. So in the first 90 days, I would highly recommend adopting the motto, it is what it is. Don't quit and try and take on the world. A lot of people will quit using nicotine and they'll decide this is a point in which they want to revamp their whole life. They're going to go to the gym 6 days a week. They're going to try all this new stuff when it comes to their nutrition. They're going to meal prep every meal. They're going to get really diligent on their work and their side hustle and all this stuff. And the reality is when you're quitting nicotine, you are quitting a drug. So your body's going through a process of detox and withdrawal. And on top of that, your levels of norepinephrine, cortisol, dopamine, serotonin, all of these things, even your blood glucose, your blood sugar levels are going to be out of whack. So now is not the time to try and take on the world. You have one goal to stick to, and that goal is not consuming nicotine. Once you start feeling better, once you start feeling confident in accomplishing that one goal, which is the most important one, then you can start to take on other tasks, other activities, and other things. But the last thing we want to do is overwhelm ourselves during this active withdrawal and detox process, try and take on the world, become overwhelmed, and then wind up giving up. Don't overestimate the challenge of quitting. A lot of people will wind up quitting or not quitting. They'll avoid quitting altogether because they overestimate how hard it's going to be. So they think, oh, I know so-and-so and they relapsed after a year. I heard that quitting nicotine is the worst thing in the world. I can't go through that. I can't do it. I'm not capable of. Some of the worst rhetoric that addiction creates for us subconsciously, by the way. Don't overestimate the challenge, because if you overestimate the challenge, you may find that you never begin and you never get started. And a lot of times, a lot of the fear that people have when it comes to quitting nicotine turns out to be nothing more than fear, which is false expectations appearing real. So don't scare yourself out of starting or talk yourself out of starting, because it might be a lot easier than you thought it was going to be. Now, if you found these tips helpful, I want you to check out the pinned comment or the video description where you can learn more about our No Nicotine November program for 2023 that's launching in 3 days. You can register for that. And you can also learn more about our Crave-Less nicotine-free gum that's designed to help people promote a state of focus and clarity. And it's also designed to help promote a state of relaxation. Things that I wish I would have been promoting when I was going through my nicotine withdrawal and nicotine quitting process. So check out those links. And if you don't feel like doing that, just follow me into the next video where I talk a little bit about the first 72 hours of quitting.